My friends at Waves sent me over a new plugin to try out, the Magma BB Tubes, kind of a tube saturation style plugin. And I thought, since I really like saturation plugins, this would be a good opportunity to show you some tips for how I use saturation in mixes and also some tricks with this particular plugin. So, full disclosure, they did not give me this plugin. They gave me a trial license for this, and I've been messing around with this for a little bit. I've used it live and here in the studio. So today I have a mix that I did a little earlier this year, and I've already put BB Tubes on a bunch of inputs, and I'm going to play you a little bit of the mix with it on, and then I'll turn it off so you can kind of hear what it's doing to the whole mix. So here goes. With BB Tubes turned on, I like it more. I think, this is one of those things that's a little hard to sort of explain. I think it gives a little more articulation to some things. It helps some things speak a little better in the mix, kind of makes everything sort of come forward and feel alive, and it's just better to me. So let's look at some individual inputs here and what I've got going on these. And the first place I always like to start with saturation plugins is the bass guitar. Bass guitars can be challenging in a mix because we're usually using DIs on them. And the DI can get us really nice, clean low end, but sometimes it just makes it hard for them to read within a mix, especially as mixes get busy. This mix in particular isn't too busy, but in some of the kind of CCM and modern worship stuff that I do, things get really dense really fast. So trying to get a bass guitar to sort of cut and read and not just be this like low end thing can definitely be a challenge. And that's where something like this, I think, can be a big help. So let me just play the bass with BB Tubes on, and then I'll bypass it so you can hear what it's doing. So it gets a little thicker, a little dirtier, really kind of just helps it cut in the mix, I think. When I am dialing in saturation, sometimes the way I will approach this, it's almost like the way I might add reverb to something. I want the results to be felt in the track rather than necessarily heard as kind of overt distortion. The thing about saturation that is different for us today versus when we were working primarily with analog gear is back in the analog days, saturation kind of just happened. There might have been some instances where you might have pushed a piece of equipment a little harder to get a little more of that kind of flavor on things. But for the most part, it was just something that was inherent in a lot of the equipment, and it just sort of worked. The thing that's different today is we actually have control over the saturation, a little more so anyways, because we're actually putting on dedicated processors to add it to things. That wasn't really the case before. So when I'm putting this on, sometimes what helps is to sort of dial further to add a little too much and then sort of dial it back. But let's go through sort of a process of putting this in on the bass. So I'm gonna hop over to the B side and let's just wipe it and start over. So I have controls down here on my control surface that map really nicely, and I'm just going to sort of dial it in on that. So first thing with any of the Waves plugins is there's typically some kind of an input gain. In this case, they call it sensitivity. With the Wave stuff, usually you want that sort of yellowish, like green is okay, but yellow is usually the sweet spot for an input level going into the plugin. So let me just make sure that that's adjusted and going to be in the right spot. Yeah, so I gave it a little bit more. It was already kind of yellowish, hitting into the orange, and that's okay. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to dial up this beauty knob. Now, the way this plugin functions, the sort of signal flow is we go into the beauty and then the beauty goes into the beast. So there's basically two different stages of tubes in the plugin. We hit this one first. This is going to be more of the kind of even order harmonics, and then the beast is going to be more of the odd order stuff. So I'm going to start with the beauty and just kind of dial it up. And I'm dialing the output back a little bit as I do this because this is going to give me some gain. Let's see how this is. So right around this kind of 6 or 7 mark, it's getting to maybe a little too much. It sounds all right to me, but probably a little more than I would want. So I'm going to kind of dial it back from there. All right, now I'm going to add the beast to it. One of the things with the beast side here is there's actually 2 different types of sort of beast mode, I guess. I'm going to toggle between them. I'm cranking it way up because that's going to give me a better idea of what is that really going to be doing to the tone of my input. Kind of torn on which one I like better. I'm going to leave it on A because that's what I did earlier. So now I'm going to dial it back because this is way too much. All right, let me put that in the mix and show you what it's actually going to do, because really, ultimately, the context of the mix is everything. Now, in the mix, we're not really hearing any of that overt kind of distortion on it. You know, when it's isolated, we can hear it. So it's a lot cleaner when I bypass it. But in the mix, it just sounds like a bass. So I like it. Let me hop over to the piano and show you something we can do that's a little unique in this particular plugin. So something you might have noticed are these tone controls over here on the right side of the plugin, and you might be wondering what the heck are those for. What that'll give us the opportunity to do is we can basically boost the top end of our signal going into the plugin, and then we can reduce that boost on the outside. So what that's basically going to do is it's going to give us more overdrive, more harmonics on the top end and then we can roll it back more towards normal. So we'll just get the benefit of those added harmonics. And let me show you what I mean. Let's copy this over to the other side. So I'm going to toggle back and forth between having the tone controls push into this a little bit and doing nothing. So we'll start with them off, and I'll just toggle back and forth. So it helps brighten it up a little bit. Let's see what happens in the context of the mix, though. So to me, brightens it up, helps it kind of speak a little better, especially in this intro here where it's doing. Let's look at this same kind of technique only on the snare drum. Sort of subtle. Let's listen to it in the mix and toggle again. So to me, it helps kind of brighten it up and helps it stick out, which is kind of what I want. But it's not like an over-the-top pop out. It just helps it read a little better in the mix, which is really what I'm going for with this. There's some tips, tricks with saturation. You want to mess around with BB Tubes, definitely check it out. I'm going to put an affiliate link down below in the description. Hope this helps. Hopefully it gives you some ideas of things to try. If you want to find out more about me and some of the stuff I've done and how I might be able to help you with some of your music, you can visit my website at www.staglproductions.com. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you next time.